How to be miraculous. Suddenly, in the middle of a healing conference in Lausanne, Switzerland, the speaker told everyone to take their mobile phone to call someone who needed healing and to pray for that person for healing, and then to ask that person to do something that they weren't able to do before the prayer. So I called a friend who was quadriplegic, meaning he had paralysis in his arms and in his legs. And I said to him, "Be healed in Jesus' name." And then I asked him to do something which he couldn't do before I prayed. And he tried writing something. And all of a sudden, I'd heard him say, "I can write. I'm healed. I can write again. It's a miracle." And since that experience, I've prayed for literally thousands of people in my healing and deliverance ministry, which incidentally you can find just underneath this video in the notes where it says more in bold characters just after three little dots. And when you open up that information section and you go right to the bottom and click on the button which says About, you will be able to have access then to the links of my websites for healing and deliverance. And I didn't only use mobile phones, but also other forms of communication like social media. There was Skype, Zoom, WhatsApp, Google Hangouts, Facebook Messenger. And to understand the principle of this healing, which is healing at a distance, we see that in Matthew chapter 8, verses 5 to 13, in the King James Version of the Bible. And I'll just read for you, first of all, verse 8, where it says that the centurion who had asked for the healing of his servant answered and said, "Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldst come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed." Then we see in verse 10, when Jesus heard it, he marveled and said to them that followed, "Verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel." And then we look at verse 13, where it says, "And Jesus said unto the centurion, Go thy way, and as thou hast believed, so be it done unto thee. And his servant was healed in the self same hour," meaning like straight away, right away. Now, there were other miracles that Jesus did where the person wasn't healed right away, like in Mark chapter 3, verses 1 to 5. And this was the case of the man who had the withered hand. And in verse 5, we see that Jesus said to him, he saith unto the man, "Stretch forth thine hand." And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored whole as the other. But he first had to stretch forth his hand in order for it to be healed. Then if we look at Luke chapter 17, verses 11 to 19, and I'll read verse 14. This is the case of the 10 lepers, and it says here in verse 14, and when he saw them, he said unto them, Go show yourself unto the priests. And it came to pass that as they went, they were cleansed. So once again, that healing was not immediate. Jesus told them they first had to go and show themselves to the priests. Then we have another miracle, which wasn't immediate, in John chapter 5, verses 1 to 9, and I'll read verse 8 concerning the man who had been suffering from an infirmity for 38 years at the pool at Bethesda. And Jesus said in verse 8, Jesus saith unto him, Rise, take up thy bed, and walk. Once again, the man had to do something in order to be healed. He had to rise, take up his bed, and walk. And when he did that, then he was healed. And then we see again, finally, in John chapter 9, verses 1 to 7, this was the man who was born blind. And here in verse 7, it's written, and said unto him, Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation sent. He went his way, therefore, and washed, and came seeing. But first he had to go to the pool and wash. Now this is different. All of these other miracles are different from the one with the centurion's servant, where Jesus marveled at the faith of this centurion and didn't ask for him to do anything else, because already Jesus said he had never found so great faith, no, not in Israel. So it shows how touched Jesus was and impressed by the faith of a person who is wanting to have a healing done at a distance. And that's a greater act of faith than healing a person that's standing like right in front of you. And that kind of faith is the faith which enabled me to have very quick and immediate results in my prayers when I was praying for people to be healed and delivered, because it's that kind of faith that touches the heart of God, praying for people at a distance. And so what I can recommend, if you want to be miraculous, then you need to have that kind of faith. Because remember, without faith, we cannot be agreeable to God. And it's also written that we shouldn't expect anything from God without faith. And when Jesus was in Nazareth, he hardly did any miracles at all because of the lack of faith of the people there. So if you call somebody or contact somebody through social media, and you pray for them to be healed, if they need healing or deliverance, and you pray for them to be healed in Jesus' name, then God will be touched by that kind of faith, and you will see instant results, immediate healings and deliverance in that way. So, just to finish off, I even prayed for my mother in that way when she was suffering from great pain in her knees, which prevented her from walking. So I called her on the phone and I said to her, "Be healed in Jesus' name." And then I asked her to do something which obviously in this case was walking, which she could barely do before. She could hardly walk at all. And I said, "Just take a few steps." And she did that. And she said, "Wow, the pain's gone. I can walk normally now without any pain. It's completely disappeared. I'm healed. It's a miracle." And so that is how to be miraculous.